This Wednesday evening, Rhys's Barmy army march on to London as Luton Town play host to Cardiff City, and it's looking Cardiff will be looking for that victory to continue that unbeaten run of 6 games and continue that good form. Whilst Luton's form has been a little bit more stop-start, with a slight change in tactics in the more recent games. But today we will look at that game and preview it in a little bit of detail. We have, of course, please make sure you're subscribed, you like, you share, all that good stuff. Tell your Cardiff City friends about the channel. 7 days a week of Cardiff City content. Also available if you prefer to listen. There's Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, all the podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts. Just type in Cardiff City World and all the content will come up in audio form as well, other than the vlogs. So we move on. As is tradition with the preview shows, we start with the opposition. So Luton Town, obviously, on paper, have a fantastic squad, a very good manager. They've come down from the Premier League. They've got a strong team. They play 3 at the back, £10 million centre back at the back as well. So there's lots to digest. They've got a few ex-Bluebird links within that squad as well. Their most recent form, they've only won once in the last 6 games, 3 losses, 2 draws, and 1 singular win. Whilst, of course, Cardiff have won 4, drawn 2 in the last 6. So it is interesting, but don't be deceived by that. This will not be an easy game. Luton Town is notoriously a difficult place to go for fans and for the team. It's a very close-in pitch. And Luton, as I say, on paper, have a good team, some really promising players. I'm in particular a massive fan of Jordan Bell, Heath Chong, Alfie Doherty, of course, was on loan at Cardiff previously, and that's without mentioning, of course, Mark McGuinness, their £10 million centre-back, who I did a preview for a Luton Town podcast last night, and they told me that he started off really ropey, but the last few games he's really hit his stride and he's being one of their better players. So he's finding a bit of form, and it'll be interesting how he copes against Cardiff. They also have the very highly rated Mengi in defence, who's just coming back from injury. So I expect them to set up in a kind of 3-4-3, really. It's an interesting system. It's a system I really like. In fact, theirs is more like a 3-4-1-2. Most teams tend to do it 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1, but they actually do it with the 1 behind 2 strikers, which is quite interesting because not many teams play with 2 up front. Most teams use that sort of 4-2-3-1. I did speculate the other day, would Rhys potentially look to match them up system-wise? I mean, it's a possibility. I think it's unlikely, but we did, at the very least, discuss 3 at the back in pre-season. I'm not sure how much they practiced it and how much they went into it, but they at least talked about having that alternative system. Put my teeth in. But I expect Luton will line up something like this. They'll have Kaminski in goal, who in my opinion is not the greatest. Then you have Mengi. McGuinness will play in the middle. Bell will play on the left back. Hashioka, Kraub, and then Jordan Clark, who I mentioned, is a real big fan of him. Victor Moses on the left wing back. Heath Chong then will play just behind Morris and Adebayo up front, both of which are 2 very good championship strikers. They have a few options off the bench, like Woodrow and Panzer, Tim Kroll as their backup keeper, Johnson, Brown, etc. They've got some good options, so don't be deceived by their form. It will be a difficult game. What they will do, so at the start of the season, they were very, very similar to Cardiff under Errol Bullock. Side to side, backwards, keeping hold of the ball, but with very little attacking prowess, very little attacking threat. But what they have done in more recent games is go a little bit more direct. And that doesn't mean long ball, that means long passes. And they will look to utilise Adebayo and Morris to hold up the ball and then have the likes of Victor Moses, Heath Chong, Clark and Hashioka making runs and playing off them. They will try and play their football around the middle of the pitch and into Cardiff City's half. And Cardiff will have to be very sharp in certain areas. Obviously, the two centre-backs will be very have their hands full with two centre-forwards. And then Tahith Chong will be very dangerous, picking up those pockets of space. So it'll be interesting which side Cardiff City go with and what Omar Riza goes with, because I think most people think that if Alex Robertson is fit, he should play. But this might be a game for Psyopis, because with the two centre forwards, the centre backs will have their hands full. You need someone who's very defensively responsible to keep that eye on Tahith Chong. So it will be interesting. Alex Robertson's, I understand, has got a hamstring tweak, so it's nothing too heavy. It's not like a full pull or anything like that, where it's going to be weeks. But maybe we just save him for the weekend, give him an extra few days recovery, and we see the same sort of midfield that we saw Saturday. And look, in the wide areas, Victor Moses, whilst he might not have the pace and power that he had, 5-10 years ago, he's still a very clever player. And he's a player who's played in that wing-back role now for a while, did it for Chelsea, now doing it for Luton. Can be a dangerous player. Hashioko is a decent player too. So whilst Luton are devoid of confidence, they have played some really well in certain games. The most recent game against West Brom was not a great game to watch. But if you go back just a couple of games to the Watford game, they were exceptional, Luton Town. And I know that their fans felt that would be the turning point in their season and where they would sort of kick on. It didn't really happen. But this is a game which Cardiff must make sure that they're really on top of things and they don't go into it too overconfident. You've got to take every game as it comes, because this Championship League, we know now, for years, bites you on the arse every time. You could play bottom of the league and get turned over. You could play top of the league and win comfortably. It is just the strangest league. In my opinion, it's the best league in the world. It's the most competitive league in the world, because anybody will turn you over. Luton Town's most recent sort of fixtures, West Brom, they drew 1-1. They lost 3-2 to Coventry, and I know that game particularly, they really was a frustrating game for the fans, and I think that was the game which maybe Rob Edwards lost a few fans within the fan base. It is a bit of a split. Some of them want him gone, some of them want him to stay. To me, it seems like a no-brainer. The man who took you to the Premier League and has done a fantastic job. It's his first real rocky spell. No one expected him to do a great deal in the Premier League, if we're honest. So for me, I think they should stick with him. But I don't watch him week in, week out. And I know at the start of the season, there was a lot of complaints similar to what there were under Errol Bullitt. But that does seem to have changed slightly in more recent games. They seem to either score a few or none at all. There doesn't seem to be like an in-between. They seem to bag a couple of goals or none. They lost 2-0 to Sheffield United. Sheffield United obviously going very well. They drew with Oxford. They beat Watford comfortably 3-0 in their probably best performance of the season. And interestingly, Rob Page is under pressure, but Jordan Clark was absolutely phenomenal in that game. Carlton Morrison was outstanding. And of course, Alfie Doherty, very reliable. So it'll be interesting if they make any tweaks to the system. I don't think you'll see too many. I don't think you'll see a tweak to the system. I think the personnel will be pretty much as we said. There's a possibility, I guess, that Alfie Doherty comes in on that left wing back role, and Victor Moses will shift over to the right. Personally, if I was picking a team, I would go with Moses and Doherty as my wing backs. But I don't pick the team. I don't see them train. It's not my club, so I'm not as familiar. But look, Luton Town will be hoping that this is the game to get their season started. They also will have looked at the fixtures 5-6 games ago and thought, that's a game we can win. All of a sudden, Cardiff City are in banging form, unbeaten in 6, new manager, and they're flying. The fans, the players, everyone's together, and we're all of a sudden a very different kettle of fish to come up against. Midweek games are difficult. It's only a few days after the Norwich game, which was a tough game. I did say the other day that I think Rhys will have to rotate at some point. Is today the game? I don't know. Obviously, Perry NG had Saturday off. I expect him to come in. What he does with the midfield will also be interesting. For me, I believe that Rhys likes the continuity of the same 11. I think he's shown that. So I think, and barring injuries, I think it'll be more or less the same as what we've seen. I expect NG to come in for Rinamoto, which is really unfortunate for Rinamoto. He doesn't deserve to be dropped, but Perry NG has found form. He's been looking happy. He missed a game for 5 yellow cards. He's going to come back in. You'd expect Gutas and Chambers to be the guys. O'Dowda at left back. I think it'll be Siopis and Turnbull. If Alex Robertson is 100% fit, he probably needs to come in. And then it comes down to what Rhys really is feeling about this game. If he's feeling, no, let's just worry about ourselves. Let's go at Luton, see if we can get an early goal, because their crowd will turn, because there is frustration there. So an early goal or two could really set Cardiff up. So he could go for it and go with Turnbull and Robertson, which has served us so well. They've looked great. Robertson's had a little bit of a break on Saturday. I could see the logic to it 100%. I worry, though, with the 2 centre forwards and the number 10 that Luton deploy. Maybe we need a defensive mind in that midfield, but I don't know. I think it'll be Tanner. I think it'll be El Ghazi on the left and Colwell at the 10. And then it really comes down to if Callum Robertson's fit. If they're looking, you got the 3 games in a week, he's carrying a bit of an injury. Do you give him an hour and then bring in Willock or someone, maybe even Reindorf off the bench? Or do you go with Willock again as like a false 9 and bring Robinson off the bench? Personally, I think this is a winnable game for Cardiff. So I think, looking at the way we've played, the way that Rhys is kind of set up as well, I think he's going to go with what has served him well, what has worked. And I think if everyone's fit, we see NG come back in. I think Robertson will come in alongside Turnbull, and I think he'll go Colwell, Robertson, with the likes of El Ghazi and Tanner in the wide areas. And those wide areas are actually where I really believe that Cardiff can get at Luton Town. For me, Blackburn at home looks a much more winnable game, and maybe that's the game where we can rotate a little bit. Maybe we can get Chris Willock in there. Maybe we can get a Kean Ashford to start on the right and give Tanner a break. That's where I would rotate it. I think this Luton Town game is fascinating because we could really get a Luton early, and if that get that early goal, then I think they could have some issues. So I think the side will be pretty much as I said, but I'll go through it anyway. Alnwick in goal, NG right back, centre back pairing of Gutas and Chambers, left back Callum O'Dowda, Turnbull, Robertson, Tanner, Colwell, El Ghazi, and Robinson up front. Obviously, guessing a little bit on the personnel being fit and stuff like that in Robertson and Robinson's case. I will also add, and I'll kind of try and put this up on screen in the edit as well, if we look to match them up in a system-wise, which I think we've got the players to do, we could go with something like Jesper Darland, Gutas, Chambers. So Darland left, Gutas in the middle, Chambers right, because then you've got your more mobile defensive centre-backs going into the wide areas. So you Darland and your Chambers. Gutas is more the one in the middle. And you've got your wing-backs you can go with, you can still go with a 4 of O'Dowda, Turnbull, Robertson, Perry NG, but I would go with Tanner. But you could go with Perry NG, and then you've got 2 behind the striker. So personally, I would, if you wanted to keep NG on that right sort of wing back role, because in that sort of 3-4-2-1 or whatever system, 3-4-3 system, generally speaking, teams seem to go with like a more attacking option on one side and then a more traditional fullback on the other side. So you could go with NG, you could tuck in, and then you've got O'Dowda to provide that width on the left. And then if you play Colwell and Tanner behind Robinson, Tanner will go out to the right to create that width anyway. So that's just a possibility. I don't think that Riza will do that. I think he's going to try and stick with that same 11. But there's always an option when a team plays a unique system like Luton Town do. There's always the option to match them up. Assuming we don't match them up, I think areas where we can really get at Luton Town are probably our strongest areas down that right-hand side for Ollie Tanner. With the three at the back, you do get space in the wide areas. So Tanner, El Ghazi drifting in, and O'Dowda down the left. Colwell and El Ghazi looking for those little pockets of space behind Jordan Clark in and around Mark McGuinness, because Mark McGuinness is a great ball playing centre-back, but he doesn't always like to be isolated one-on-one, doesn't like to be turned around. And if Robinson can get in behind Colwell and El Ghazi in those pockets, I think we can cause them some issues. I really rate McGuinness. Everyone knows this. I really rate Mengi. But Mark McGuinness is positionally, and his reading of the game is excellent, and his ball playing is good. But he does have weaknesses. And I think if we can get him turned around, get him behind him, that's where we might see some problems for him. We're not gonna, win. We're not gonna win lots of headers with a back three versus Robinson, Tanner, and Agazi, and the likes of these. So I think it's got to be what we've done so far this season under Riza. Quick interchanges, lots of rotations, getting runs in behind, Tanner high and wide, El Ghazi drifting in with O'Dowda high and wide, and then NG will give support without going beyond and overlapping and the rest of it. Ultimately, I think this is a very winnable game for Cardiff. In terms of Luton Town, their man to watch for me, there's a few, but I really like Tahith Chong. I think he's a super talented lad and got a big future. Still a young man, but we don't want to allow him to implement himself on the game. We can't give him the freedom to get on the ball and be comfortable. It's one of the reasons why I think there's an option to play Siopis and get around him and really be nipping at his heels. Don't give him any time to settle. But he's the guy who kind of knits it all together in that system. He will be the one who tries to get on the ball and get Morris and Adebayo in behind the Cardiff City defence. Alnwick will have to be on his toes for those little balls in behind. And they will go direct into the feet of Adebayo and Morris to play off them with long passes. So the Robertson, Turnbull, Siopis, whoever it may be in that midfield, they've got to be sharp to close them down with that when they've got their back to goal to stop that link-up play. For Cardiff, the key man for me will be, I'm going to go with David Turnbull again. As tempting as it is, and look, Ruben Colwell has been involved in everything creatively for Cardiff City, but David Turnbull is such a classy player, and I think I'm so pleased for him that he's showing the qualities that he has in the position that he's best at, in that deeper role. And he's really been kind of dictating, always looks to play the ball forward as well, which I really like. He's always looking to break lines. He also has come close with his shots recently. I think it's only a matter of time before he scores. So I wouldn't be surprised if he nestles one in the top corner on Wednesday night. But he's the one who kind of knits everything together. In particular, if Alex Robertson isn't fit to start and it's Turnbull and Siopis, Turnbull is the one who's going to dictate. Turnbull is the one who's going to get on the ball, get it into Ruben Colwell, get it into Ollie Tanner, get it into El Ghazi so we can create and get him down the sides of that Luton Town system. And it's, as I say, if we can get it, start fast, get at Luton early, and hopefully get a goal or two in the first sort of half hour, I do think there's potential for the Luton Town crowd to get a bit frustrated. Not necessarily turn as what like we saw in the Bristol City game, but certainly get frustrated, which makes it even more difficult for their players. And I think, look, Luton Town have been stop-start this season. So it's up to the Cardiff City 11, Cardiff City squad, the manager, the coaches, to make sure that this is one of those stop games. Don't let them play. Don't let them implement their style. Don't let them implement their tactics. And you do that by getting around them, making them rush. Don't let them settle into the game in that first 15, 20 minutes. The Luton Town crowd will be up for it in that first 20 minutes. So if Cardiff can quieten them down, I think we can get the win away from home. And I am fairly confident that we can go and get 3 points there. But I'm not kidding myself. It's going to be a very, very difficult game. I would take 1-1 now. If you offered me 1-1 now, I would take it, because I'm pretty confident that we can win at home on Saturday. And 4 points from the next two is great. Another great week for the club going into the international break. But my prediction for the game is Cardiff City 2, Luton Town 1. And I'll stick with that from the Luton podcast I did. Please do check that out. It was really enjoyable. I had a great chat with the lads. And it was one of my favourite ones I've done. Been lucky enough to do a variety of other teams' podcasts and radio and stuff. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So do check that out. I'll give it a share and stuff. If they send me a clip, I'll put the clip up as well. But do check it out. It was a good chat. And obviously, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think Omar Riza will make any changes other than maybe Perry NG coming in. Do you think he rotates anyone? Get some fresh legs in there? Do you think he matches up Luton's system? That would be tactically really brave. A brave decision to do that. We did toy with the idea. I don't think we'll do it. But it's an interesting one, because it's not very often that we come up against teams who play a completely different system, who play three at the back. I'm interested in what you guys think. I'm interested in what your predictions are. Get your predictions in with the first goal scorer. Who's the key man for Cardiff? Who's the key man for Luton? It's always a pleasure. Remember, the Flower Hour is on Thursday night this week. So we've got this tonight. Tomorrow night, we've got something special entitled A Love Story. Robert Earnshaw and Cardiff City. It's a new episode of the history of Cardiff City with Terry Phillips. It's an absolute belter. In my humble opinion, it's the best one yet. It's a really good one. So we'll drop that Wednesday afternoon, about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because of the game in the evening. Thursday, the Flower Hour. And then Friday, we'll have a live preview of Cardiff City and Blackburn. And then, of course, match reaction Saturday, the breakdown Sunday. We've also got a whole host of other content. And remember, the more the channel grows, the more content we'll produce, the more content we'll put out. And of course, we have member show every Monday night. You can become a member at the Cardiff City World. Just press join, or you can join at patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. That helps us so much. I cannot even tell you. Price of a cup of coffee per month really keeps both channels going, keeps everything going, keeps the content going, allows us to, Friday we're going down to film pretty much 8 hours of content, just loads of different stuff. So that allows us to do that. So please do, if you can. I know it's hard. I know times are hard. I know it's Christmas coming up and all that stuff. But I cannot explain to you how much it helps to have the more members that we can get, the better. But yeah, keep doing your thing. You have a good week. Hopefully 3 points tomorrow to make it a nice break up in the week, and we can finish the week strong going into the international break. Omar Riza's Barmy Army are flying. Will they continue to fly? Let's find out. Come on, the City.